Hello, this is Algebra, topic 2-1 on solving one-step equations. These are the most simple of equations to solve. You should be able to do most of these in your head, if not all of them. However, we're going to go ahead and work them out and check them on the calculator just to make sure that you know how to do them. Let's go over a vocabulary term first, a solution. A solution is a number that when substituted in an equation in place of a variable makes the equation true. Okay, that's a solution. So we put a number in there instead of the letter. If it gives us a true answer, then we are correct. Now, algebra is all about reverse operations. So I want to do the reverse of whatever I see. Well, this is p plus 5. The reverse of that would be to subtract 5. When I do that, this p drops down. These 5's, plus 5 minus 5, cancel each other out. And negative 10 minus 5 is negative 15. That's our answer. Now, when we go to check it, we're going to do this. Instead of p, I'm going to write negative 15. So negative 15 plus 5 equals, and I'm going to use my calculator. Negative 15 plus 5 equals negative 10. That works. Let's go ahead and do example number 2. So, over here, we have r minus 2.6. Don't let it confuse you if your letter's on the other side. Doesn't matter. We want to get the variable by itself, so we get rid of the other number. Well, the opposite of minus 2.6 would obviously be to plus 2.6. And what we do to one side, we have to also do to the other. Think of it like a balance scale. Well, over here, negative 7.5 plus 2.6 is negative 4.9. Nothing happened with the r, so we drop it down. And negative 2.6 plus 2.6 is 0. Cancels out. Our variable is alone. And so we have our answer. So now we come back and we double check. I'm going to go ahead and put this part of the equation down, but instead of r, I'm going to put negative 4.9. So negative 4.9 minus 2.6 equals, again, we're going to use our calculator. Negative 4.9 minus 2.6 gives us a negative 7.5, which checks. So we're good. Now we are over here. Well, here we've got plus a negative number. Well, you may think this is confusing. You may think that because this is plus, we need to minus. And you're kind of right. But we're not minusing 34. We will be subtracting negative 34. So before we get into all that mess, let's go ahead and just take a look at these two signs. These two signs mean that we're doing m minus 34. So if we're doing m minus 34, the opposite of that would be to plus 34. Again, in order to keep our scale balanced, we're going to do the same to both sides. Nothing happened with this m. Minus 34 and plus 34 will cancel out. And negative 21 plus 34 is 13. So now I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to replace the m with the 13. I'm going to go ahead and take the original. So 13 plus negative 34. Notice I didn't do my change when I typed it here. That's because, let's say I made a mistake here. I don't want that mistake to come when I check. So we do 13 plus, open parentheses, negative 34. This looks exactly the same, and I get negative 21. That matches, and so we're good. On to number 4. Again, minus negative, that's a little bit confusing, so going back to junior high rules, I know that minus and negative is really plus. So this is really our plus 8 equals negative 14. So this minus negative is really plus. And now we do a reverse operation. The opposite of adding 8 is to subtract 8. Well, nothing happens with this r, so it drops down. Positive 8 minus 8 cancels. And if we do a negative 14 minus 8, we get a negative 22. So we check. I go ahead and go back to my original equation. 22 minus a negative 8. 22 minus a negative 8. Well, that gave me 30. Well, 30 is not right. So, obviously, I have some sort of error. Maybe you noticed it. This is a negative sign, and I didn't put a negative sign here. So this is not 22. It is negative 22 minus a negative 8. So negative 22 minus a negative 8 gives a negative 14. So here we have an example. The checking was to make sure I had the correct answer. Now, I did have the correct answer, but I checked it wrong. I used a positive instead of a negative. But had I got this wrong, had this been positive, and I would have gotten this 30, I would have known, hey, something is up, something is wrong. I need to go back and look and see what I did. It was a simple matter of forgetting the negative sign. And most of the time your errors will be something similar, something rather simple on that. It's just a matter of going back through your work to check. And this way you guarantee that you always have the right answer. So this was adding and subtracting. One step we either added or subtracted. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when we multiply or divide. So over here we have that negative 5t equals 60. Well, this means multiplication. Whenever you have a number and a letter, that means you're multiplying. Well, we want to do the opposite. So the opposite of multiplying is we're going to divide. And we're going to divide both sides by negative 5. Well, negative 5 divided by negative 5 gives us a positive 1t, which we don't need to write 1t, so we can just write t. And then if I do 60 divided by negative 5, we get negative 12. And so now we test it out. We do negative 5 times negative 12. Now, when I replaced this letter, I made sure to put it in parentheses. I wasn't doing that when I was adding and subtracting because it wasn't that big of a deal. But when you're multiplying, you definitely want to go ahead and include it in parentheses. So, we have negative 5 times negative 12 is 60. Which 60 is the answer we wanted, so we are good to go. Over here, it's the same thing. We're multiplying, so to do the opposite, we have to divide. And we come over here and we do 115 divided by 2.3. We get that this is 50. All right, we're going to check it out. 2.3 times 50. We get 115, which matches. Now, I want to point out that these are not my answers. These are how I guarantee that I make 100 on this assignment. This is my answer. My answer is -12. My answer is 50, not 60 and 115. Just want to make sure that that's clarified. Coming over here to number 7. Well, this says r over -4. Well, over a -4 means that we are dividing by -4. So I'm going to multiply by -4. Well, if I divide by something, then multiply by it, I cancel it, leaving you with just the r. And then I will do a 15 times -4, and I get a -60. Let's check our answer. -60 over -4. -60 divided by -4 equals +15. Now, number 8. This is a fraction, and there are several ways to do this. One way is that you could divide by 2/3. I don't particularly like that method because when you start dividing by fractions, you get to where you start making mistakes. So instead, we're going to actually do this in 2 steps. First off, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. What that does is my divide by 3 and my multiply by 3 cancel. I'm left with 2b equals 12 times 3 is 36. And then I'm going to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we get b equals 36 divided by 2 is 18. And so 2/3 times 18 equals what? Well, 2 over 3, parentheses, 18 equals 12. And so that works. Now, I know we called this one-step equations, and I took number 8 and I turned it into a 2-step equation. The reason I did that was because conceptually it's a little bit easier to do this, and it leads us into something called reciprocals. I'm going to go ahead and do my multiplication a slightly different way. Instead of writing times 3, I'm going to put them side by side like I just showed you over here. So over here, I'm going to put the reciprocal. Now the reciprocal is when you take a fraction and you flip it upside down. So I'm going to multiply it by a -3/4. And so what happens when I do this? Well, negative times negative, those go away. 4 divided by 4 cancels, and divided by 3 times 3 cancels. Up, up. Now, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to multiply this by 3/4. And so we get 16 times 3 over 4 equals 12. And over here, all we're left with is x. So if we check that, we get 16. Oh, let's hold off on the 16. Let's go ahead and just say negative 4/3 times, we said 12, equals what? Well, negative 4/3 times 12 is a negative 16. And I had a positive 16. So, obviously I have an error here. So what I need to do is I need to see where my error is. Well, I didn't multiply by just 3/4. I multiplied by a negative 3/4. So that means that when I multiply this, to multiply it by negative, means this needs to be a negative 12. So it means that needs to be a negative 12. So negative 4/3 times a negative 12 equals a positive 16, which is correct. Now, again, I showed you here we made a mistake. Obviously, negative 16 wasn't 16, it wasn't our answer. So I looked back. These numbers matched originally, but I realized I forgot to multiply by my negative. When I went back and fixed that, my answer checked. And so my answer is not positive 12, but negative 12. This is really not that difficult. It's just single one-step problems. Good luck on your assignment and have a good day.